Thanks a lot. Just before I start on pigs, a follow-up. That meeting of the agencies that supported us, we did a round-the-table thing. And basically, they wrote us off. You know, these are the people that are going to help us. So they work in disasters. And they said, we're it. I needed a bloody drink after I read that stuff. This is one of the most resilient regions in the world. We have Vanuatu, I think, is at the top of the list for the most natural disasters. Fiji's third or fourth or fifth. Samoa, Tonga, they're all in there. And this is one of the most resilient industries in this region. We survive the stupidities of all the disasters, and COVID is just another one that we're going to deal with. So I think we do very well in this region. I was introduced earlier as a very successful pig farmer. At the minute, I'd just like to be still a pig farmer because it's been very difficult in the pig industry. Industry, 3 big pig farms, 60% of their supply went to tourism. That has disappeared. Tourism markets, high-value product value added, high-value markets. All of a sudden, we are having to sell that onto the low-value domestic market. And the whistling pig and the cookie and his band and all the rest of it are all ways we are getting out there to market pork to a completely new market. And that is what we have had to do. Some of the politics of this is in the supplies. Australia and China have fallen out. There was a lot of barley going to go from Australia to China. All of a sudden, China didn't want it because Australia asked China to do a study into the COVID virus, the beginnings of the COVID virus. And so all of a sudden this barley is around, and so our feed prices come down. That's a positive. On the negative side, there was a whole lot of pork that was supposed to go to China. Again, China doesn't want it. And so that pork is now being dumped into the Pacific. So whilst we've lost 60% of our market, we now have to compete with dumped produce. The stupidity of this, China called us up and said, could you send us some pork? We said, yeah, we'll send you some pork. You know, how much do you need? We've probably got enough. And the guy came back and said, look, we'll send a trial of 1,000 tons, and if that works, we'll do 5,000 tons a month. I said, look, our total national production is 2,000 tons, and we eat most of that. But at the minute, yes, we've got containers. He said, anything you have. We are desperate for pork in China. $10 a kilo at the border, we could have sent it. Now we're competing with the same stuff from Australia coming in, dumped at $5 per kilo. So these market distortions, because of COVID, have really played into our... Sorry? We don't have the... We lost the opportunity to export because of the biosecurity rules. We could not prove. China wanted to send somebody down here, which of course they couldn't do, but they needed to check whether if they had brought them here, they'd have approved what we do for our slaughtering facilities. I don't know. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. The other thing that, of course, has played into us is that the pig industry survives on byproducts, wheat byproducts, noodles and flour and biscuits all get sold into the pig industry. Demand for that has gone down, so those byproducts are not available, which means we're having to rely on more conventional, more expensive products. Our production efficiencies, coconut. Coconut, the price of coconut oil collapsed, so the coconut millers are trying to get their money back through coconut meal. That we can't afford to buy the coconut meal. Sorry, it's just too expensive. Soybean is now cheaper. Imported soybean is cheaper. Meat meal, changes in demand in New Zealand. There was less slaughtering, so the price of meat meal went up. But then now it's come all the way down again because the Kiwis are back eating as much meat as they always used to do. Our production efficiency is not impacted by the coronavirus. We are reasonably efficient as an industry. We can normally rear and sell pork in this country as cheaply as it can be landed from overseas. The only problem with efficiencies, if particularly the smaller farmers in this industry, if they are unable to buy feed, and you have to remember that feed is 65–70% of their total cost. So if they're going to cut a cost, what are they going to cut? They're going to cut feed cost. And yet that starts a vicious cycle of downward efficiencies. And so we have serious concerns about the smaller farmers in particular, and even the big farmers. You know, I always try and cut costs, and it always comes back and bites. You know, you save a little bit of money for a couple of weeks, and in the end it costs you more. Pig industry scale, many of our smaller farmers have already left the sector, which is a shame. These were farms supported by government when they were set up, but there's no protection for them now. And as we reported in the paper, 2 of our 3 larger farms are cutting their production by 40%. That's going to be about a 25% downturn in our national production of pork, and this is bloody expensive to put back again, if they're going to bother to put it back again. So if we're not careful, we're going to lose this. There's only one idiot who is not cutting down his production, and he's still going gung-ho and trying to flog there. I don't know him. I hear he's a decent bloke. The other part of the market that was impacted by COVID, of course, was the Mangiti market. All the social restrictions on gatherings, where pigs were traditionally sold, where our small farmers traditionally sold pigs in a very short value chain. It's a retail sale to the farmer. You know, all of that was stopped too. So our small farmers really struggling to find markets. So basically 80% of the pork market in Fiji has been disrupted. Pig industry pricing. The price of pork at the farm gate has come down from $7.80 to $7 per kilo. That's about a 20% or something. I can't do the maths. Apologies. But at retail, the price of pork has come down over 50%. You will never get pork in this country as cheap as you can get it now. Our industry has never worked so hard to lose money in its life. Our industry is largely vertically integrated, so the farmers and the butchers all work together. So we're in it together, and pork that used to sell for $20 a kilo, you can now get it at $7.60. So that's even lower than that. We've talked already about theft. Theft has been a significant impact in the pig industry. People need to keep an eye on theft. The other challenge facing the pig industry is the other virus, African swine fever. African swine fever has now got into East Timor. That's about 70 kilometres off of Australia. If it gets into Australia, do we stop importing pork from Australia? If it gets into Fiji, I have to slaughter every animal on the farm and probably not be able to use the facility for 20 or 30 years. This is a devastating virus. We're working with biosecurity to make sure that this virus does not get in here. So what are the answers? Hopefully the feed prices will stabilise. Hopefully they will stabilise in our favour a little bit. We need to maximise all the waste streams we have in this country, meat meals and fish meals that are dumped, chicken meals, which is dumped. We need to make use of all of that rather than dumping it. We need to get better access to better feeds for our smaller farmers. Things like soya bean, I can get a container of soya bean, but I have to go to Crest and then I have to buy one full container load. I cannot buy soya bean on my own because the importers want to sell you 5 containers. Well, I can't afford 5 containers. So our small farmers, who are even smaller than me, there's no chance they can get it because it's all tied up in concessions and duty and you can't pass it on. We need to get rid of some of these stupidities. These are small farmers, they've got enough problems. Get them access to the input supplies that they want. African swine fever. We have to continue to improve our efficiencies. Our efficiencies are quite good at the moment. Certainly at my farm we're going as well as we've ever gone. We're building this domestic market, but I think the biggest and the last one I'm going to mention here is that I would not be in business this week if the banks had not changed their policies and relaxed their repayment terms and conditions. I think on one of my loans, they waived interest and principal. On another of the loans, they've just waived the principal repayments, paying interest. This has made a huge difference to the cash flow of the farm. I've been doing the numbers at the farm this week. We are selling pork at $2 a kilo cheaper than we should to be able to stay in business. That's going to take out the cash flow eventually. Without the support of the banks, we could not survive. We have to compete now in this market with chicken at about $8 a kilo. I can open new shops, but if I open new shops, I have more overheads. So there's a horrible conundrum in there. With the help of the banks, we are surviving. We know we're losing money. Please buy pork now. It's never going to be cheaper. And then put $2 for every kilo you buy in the charity box. It's a very difficult period for the whole pig industry. We need tourism to come back. We need the bubbles to open, whatever they're going to be. And if we can do that in the next year, then hopefully I will still be a pig farmer. And the year after that, I might be a very successful pig farmer again. Thanks a lot.